So is this the beginning of a new and possibly positive relationship between the U.S. and Iran? For that, I spoke to Haleh Esfandiari from the Wilson Center here at Washington, and I asked her if Rouhani is like his predecessors in denying that Iran is trying to build a nuclear bomb.
That has been the policy of Iran, to always state that Iran is not pursuing nuclear weapon, but it wants the nuclear know-how for peaceful purposes. So President Rouhani is basically repeating the policy of Iran.
He said, I'd like to read a quote. He said, quote, that Iran is solely looking for, quote, peaceful nuclear technology. Should other countries, especially in the West, believe him when he says something like that?
Well, the West has never believed what Iran has been saying, because Iran has pursued a very active and aggressive development of its nuclear program. But it continues to say that it is really only for nuclear purposes. So I'm sure that President Rouhani, by saying that they will be willing to allow more inspections, probably will need to prove that.
I'd like to get your opinion on a personal relationship between the leaders of these two countries. There were some letters exchanged between U.S. President Barack Obama when President Rouhani took office, and the Iranian leader called it subtle and tiny steps for an important future. Do you think this is a step in a more positive direction, and do you see a more cordial relationship growing between these two countries?
Well, this is really the first step, because until now, I mean, we have not heard the president of Iran saying that, the president of the United States congratulated me in a letter and other things, and I wrote back to him and thanked him. Sure, this is a first step after 33 years, but it is a long way ahead of us. We shouldn't expect that cordial relationship will be established within the next 6 to 9 months, but at least maybe it will tone down the harsh rhetoric between the two countries.
What would you say are the biggest differences between President Rouhani and his predecessor, former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad? Do you expect a very different style of governing from this new leader?
Definitely. They are two very different persons. President Ahmadinejad was a populist. He was in your face all the time, would make outlandish statements, was constantly shocking people around the world, and even inside Iran with these statements, which led to Iran being isolated. On the contrary, President Rouhani believes in compromise. He's a politician, he's a moderate politician, he's a centrist, and he weighs every single word that he says. He's a very careful person.
All right, Dr. Esfandiari from the Wilson Center, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.